Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newly revitalized Can I Be Frank show. We are not broadcasting live. We are recording down here at the beautiful palatial inside Lowell Studios in downtown Lowell. Cold. I'll do weather later, but it's cold and a little snowy today here. It is Martin Luther King Day where we're recording. By the time you see this, it won't be, but I hope everyone had a nice long holiday weekend. This is my first program. I'm terribly excited. For those of you that know me, I did do a live radio show, which actually I realized was 10 years ago this month. January of 2013, I started a radio show in WCAP. Thank you to the founder of Inside Lowell, Ted Panos, and some other folks. I was granted the opportunity to have a little 2-hour, which became a 1-hour program I did weekly, covering all topics. I would say what you're going to get from me is a variety show. You're going to get sports, you're going to get politics, you're going to get social, you're going to get media, you're going to get everything I can think of. So I started that program in January, like I said, 2013, along with an old college friend of mine named Mark Rogers. At the time when we started, it was called the Frankly We Missed the Mark show. His name was Mark and Frank, and play on words, you get it. And it came out of the gate pretty hot. It was really fun. We had some great guests. City Manager Tipper Golden was our very first guest, actually, 10 years ago. At the time, he was still a state representative of the city of Lowell, and now he's a big shot and won't return my calls. So in any case, I want to thank you. First of all, I want to thank Ted Panos. I'm so excited for his venture. This Inside Lowell thing is off to an amazing, fast start. And him, one of his confidants, Danielle McFadden, is his right-hand girl, and they're doing great. And he just showed me some of the statistics we're seeing about web traffic, Facebook traffic. It's going well. I'm so proud of Teddy. These studios are beautiful. If you can see them, we're right in downtown Lowell at 100 Merrimack Street. And it's really exciting. It's my first podcast tonight. I'm a little rusty. Like I said, I did my show on CAP for approximately 2.5 years, and I really had fun. And it was live, and it was exciting. I had a lot of good guests, and I had a lot of good co-hosts. Between Mark, I did about 6 months on my own, which was a little bit interesting to talk into a microphone like I am right now. But then I was able and excited. I brought on an old friend of mine, Kerry Quinn. It was the Frank and Kerry show, or F and K we called it. We did that together for a few months, and then it just, for many reasons, we had to move on. But I greatly enjoyed my time at CAP, and it was great. So this is exciting. This is a new chapter. And obviously we're in the podcast world, not live radio. So we are pre-recording this, and this will come out sometime this week. And like I said, I'm really excited. You know, the format I'm going to follow, first off, this platform is mainly directed around Lowell and the greater Lowell area. So you're going to hear a lot about that. Other programs, other stories, other blogs. You're going to hear a lot about what's happening in the schools, what's happening with city council, what's happening around Lowell. You're going to get a lot of that. There's a lot of very talented, creative people that are invested in this venture. Myself, and as Ted knows, when he asked me, I will take a lighter twist at life and Lowell and things around it. And I plan to have a lot of fun. I plan to take a lot of jabs at a lot of people. So you're going to hear it. And I'm prepared for the backlash. But if you choose to tune in to watch my program and read my blog, you're going to find hopefully some humor and some fun. And that's my goal. So I hope to podcast maybe, 3 times a month. Once a week would be great. I just don't know, like most of us, we have other jobs and other responsibilities, but this is really exciting, and I hope you tune in. I'm really excited for the gentleman I'm about to introduce soon. I just want to spend a few more minutes and just tell you, this is really fun. This is really exciting. You can obviously watch it at your leisure. I'm going to have different guest hosts with me most weeks. We're going to cover a wide array of topics. I have a lineup for the next show, which we will record arguably next week. And the topic is why Lowell is better than every other place around us. And it will not be pleasant if you happen to live in Tewksbury, Billerica, Tingsboro, Chelmsford, or Andover. But anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And that's next week coming up. as I stare into this camera, which is wildly uncomfortable for someone that's not in the profession, they say the camera adds 10 pounds. It apparently adds 10,000 gray hairs too, because I look like my sweatshirt. By the way, thank you, ladies. My daughter's bought me for this occasion, so you'll see me rocking this. I promise to wash it between episodes. So it's going to be fun. I really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you watch it, and we're having a great time down here. So without further ado, you've heard enough of me. What I want to introduce is two gentlemen. To the left, you see Mr. Shaun Cremin, and to the right, Mr. Ray Keefe. They are friends, born and bred Lowell people, and they have a very special cause to talk about, and I'm going to let them do all the talking. But on February 11th this year, so a few weeks away, Ray and crew and his board of directors, now it's grown into this massive event, will host the Keefe Family Polar Plunge. Essentially, you get a bunch of wackos from Lowell and beyond that go up to Seabrook, New Hampshire, and dive in the ocean voluntarily in the middle of February in 43-degree water for a charitable cause. And it's really fun. It's really exciting. And it always goes to folks in need, specifically folks from Ray's life, from Lowell, Shaun's life. We've all seen the massive generosity of the citizens of Lowell. And we're just really excited to have these gentlemen here. I'm going to let them talk about the history of this event, the fundraiser, and an incredibly deserving family that will benefit from this year's plunge. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Frank, for having us.
Thank you. No,
Thanks for having
happy
us.
to be here.
Pleasure. Lucky to be here.
I guess it's just as simple as it gets, Ray. I'd like to start with you. Would you mind giving us a history? How did this get started? What motivated you? Where did the Keefe plunge begin?
Yeah. So it started many, many years ago. I think it first started when I had Red Sox season tickets, and I'd spend a fortune going to the ball games, fortune parking, fortune buying food for the kids and everything. And at the end of the day, you went home and you spent a fortune, but you'd had nothing to show for it except maybe a win or a loss. And at that point, I started a raffle and would raffle off my seats. And the very first thing we did was we raffled off for a family in Westford that had, you might have read about it, they were the McLaughlin family, and they had 6 children, and the 7th one was born, and the mother died upon the birth of the 7th child. And it was unbelievable because they had 5 kids under 7 and 7 under like 13. It was just incredible. And so we did a raffle at that time, and that raised a lot of money for that family who needed it. The father was just beside himself, and it was a wonderful thing. And that's how it kind of started. And then I said, it really doesn't take a whole lot to change someone's life and make a difference in someone's life. It can be really simple. And and I always want to do one of these stupid polar plunges, I call it stupid, but now I love it. But so back in 2008, my son was going to the Groton School, and the Groton School was playing Lawrence Academy right across town, and in football on a rainy Saturday afternoon, and Lawrence handed us our toenails, for lack of a better word.
We're not radio. You can swear it. Yes, it's all right.
So anyways, that evening, there was a young man that was playing for Lawrence Academy who I didn't know at the time. His name was Mark Frateroli, and Mark was 16, and he was lucky enough to have a car on campus. Mm-hmm. And that evening, that very night, it was still raining, and it was still slippery, and it was still awful out. He was asked by one of his schoolmates if they could take his car and go into town, into Air. So I don't know if you know, but Groton is kind of connected to 2A, and it goes down into Air, and there's a McDonald's. And kids from Lawrence would try to beat curfew and head down there and get something to eat and come home. And Mark let this other youngster drive his car, and they made it to McDonald's, but on the way home, they didn't negotiate a turn, and they hit a tree. And it was an absolutely horrific accident, to the point where nobody knew who was driving. And a lot of the people that worked at the Groton School as teachers and stuff were volunteer EMTs, and they were on the scene, and it was something that they had to actually take time off from. It was one of the worst things that they had ever witnessed. Mm-hmm. Well, it came out that the young man that was driving, he survived, and the person that was in the passenger seat, but they didn't know this. It took a long time because they actually thought that Mark was driving because they were in Mark's car, and Mark died. So he happened to be the son of Anna and Filippo Frateroli, otherwise known as Filippo's on Causeway Street in Boston.
Oh, sure.
And just a wonderful family, and we're still friends to this day. But at the time, I just thought that the two schools had kind of, Lawrence was more of a, I don't mean to offend anybody here, but a very athletic school. Sure. Groton was a little bit more of a thinking school, so to speak. And it would have been a nice way, I thought, to bring the two communities together. So I thought, this is the time where I'm going to do one of these polar plunges, and I'm going to try to bring the two schools together. And so we got a tremendous amount of students and parents to donate to a fund that I ended up working out with Lawrence Academy that they were going to start a scholarship fund for Mark Frateroli. And so we went down, and it was a gigantic crowd of three. It was, four. It was my wife, my daughter, my son, and myself. And we went in on a Friday afternoon, but we filmed it and everything. And we raised $1,500. And so they had me down to Filippo's restaurant the next spring to make the donation and stuff. And it was hard because, I had to write a speech and read a speech, and I'm not good at that stuff. But it went over well, and that was the beginning of it. And I've told, Shaun, when we do these things, you really do get emotionally attached to the families and to the specific person, whatever it is. And so we have been friends of the Fraterolis since then. Yeah. And for the first 8 years, it was the Mark F. Frateroli polar plunge. For the first 8? For the first 8. And at the end of 8 years, Anna, who I always used to communicate with, and they would donate to every cause, every year, no matter who it was, because it was for Mark. And at the end of 8 years, my father had passed away, and she said, Ray, it's time. You've done our family, just a great thing and a great service, and it's time to name it after your family. And I said, that's fine, Anna. It's been wonderful being associated with your family. So that's how it all started. Wow. And then, and so really after that, it would be anybody, people would say to me in September, October, who's the plunge for this year?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, Ray. What is your selection process? I mean, there's so many good causes and so many families in need. Like, how do you even narrow it down?
Well, people think that we have all these applications that come in and we sort through them. I'm a gunslinger like Shaun, really. I just, if I see something or someone, the last few years, Billy Finn has been instrumental, Cookie Finn, they've come up with people that they feel like they'd like to do it from. And I love to do it for people from Lowell because this is my hometown. I love this city, and I'll always call this home. And so I like to give back to someone who's had just a terrible thing happen, whatever it is. Sure. And so usually it's just if someone makes a suggestion. So someone might say to me, "Well, who are you doing it for this year?" And I'll say, sometimes we don't know until December, and sometimes the person or family that we're doing it for doesn't even know because the tragedy hasn't happened yet. It's sometimes like that. And there was one year when we hadn't made a decision. I think it was 2014, and I was watching the TV, and I noticed that there was this young girl that had been killed. She was from Brookline, New Hampshire, and I recognized her because she was an apprentice plumber that had been in my house many, many times, and her name was Katie Hamilton. And Katie had left her house on Christmas Eve to do some final Christmas shopping, and she had been hit from behind by someone who was texting pushed out onto Route 13, which is a route that kind of connects New Hampshire with Townsend in that area, and she was hit and killed. And the first person on the scene was a volunteer EMT named Steve Whitcomb, her father.
Oh, jeez.
And he didn't even know it was her because it was so brutal. And it's a story that went worldwide, because I actually picked the story up when I went to Google it from a United Kingdom story, because it was all over the world. This was just an unbelievable thing. And so she left 3 daughters, and so we did the plunge for her one year, and that, we didn't really know until mid-December. So that's kind of how it goes. Like sometimes we know. This year we knew early because a tragedy hit us right in the heart early, and so and sometimes we don't know until a couple of months before we take the plunge. But it's always going to be from here on in, and for the last 5 or 6 years, always be someone from Lowell.
Yeah, that's it's a great event. I've been a part of it or joined in. I even actually jumped in the water a couple times. And it's very cool, and we're gonna repeat this date over and over again, folks, as you listen. But February 11th, 12 p.m., Seabrook Beach, New Hampshire. It's a it's a fun day. It's a feel good day, and I just haven't been a part of it for the last few years. As an attendee, you see the families there. You see all these people that just come out. They take time out of their Saturday in the middle of winter, and a lot of them, like Shaun, certainly, first guy in the water. It's a very fun thing. And I mean, the polar plunges exist all around, it's become a common fundraising thing, but it's a really cool thing, and it brings people together, but it's very special. And with that said, I want to turn to Shaun, Mr. Cremin here, dear friend of mine, who got me involved, at least opened my eyes to the plunge a few years ago. We have a very mutual dear friend who benefited from this a few years back. So I just like, Shaun's anecdotal perspective on, your involvement and what it's meant to you, and why it's so great.
I'll tell you what, Frank, and thanks for having us. Honestly, it's great. And there's still stuff I learn all the time when Ray speaks like that. There's some of that stuff I don't know. I don't know all the history. I know a little bit of it. And when you hear it, it's very, very powerful, very emotional, and I couldn't be more thrilled that he asked me to be a part of this and to help out. And the reason I got involved was our friend Kevin Conley had a fire right before Christmas a few years ago, and I had heard Ray's name through some mutual friends, but I didn't know Ray. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know much, really anything about this. And our friend Kevin had said, I got this somebody's running some kind of benefit for the family, this polar plunge up at Seabrook. I'm like, well, that's great. Like, what's going on? Because I remember Kevin was away traveling, his house caught on fire, and I got a text and went by the house, and we knew the kids were safe and everybody was safe. They did lose a couple pets, but the kids were at school and wife was working, and Kevin was away. So in the big picture, it's like, okay. But, obviously before Christmas and going to the cleaners the next day and, the laundromat, trying to get them clothes. And, there was some fire department people that were great and some people getting cards and gift cards and getting them clothes and trying to get the kids to school. And anyway, so I was like, well, who's this Ray Keefe guy? I'm like, this is fascinating to me. I'm like, I love when somebody helps out, and I'm like, this is, this touched me. So I was still in Lowell at the time, and I didn't really get involved with a lot of the fundraising. I was kind of just helping the Conleys, and obviously our paths crossed, and we found out about the plunge, and we got mixed up in it, and I'm like, this is great, and so that's kind of how I got started. And I had said to Ray, I'm like, that this is awesome. I'm like, I'd like to, offer any help I can going forward to see what you did for, the Conley family. So that's where I got involved, and then I've had one foot up in Seabrook the last couple of years, so it's kind of worked out logistically. And now I have 2 feet up there, I have a wonderful girlfriend, and I'm up there full time now. So it's kind of a nice bridge. It's, the Lord works in mysterious ways,
Sure.
and now so.
Well,
So here we are.
The funny thing too, right? Seabrook is basically Lowell North, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't. If you're doing anything wrong, don't go to Seabrook because you'll get caught because you're going to see someone. I just got a text in from your friend Georgie Scannell. $10,000, pretty nice of him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, make sure you run that by him.
I didn't talk to him about that.
You almost had me.
Almost had you.
Me too.
Yeah, Ray, you look like you were scared to death. Georgie will get me.
Company's doing well.
Well, thanks, Shaun. And said, like you said it very, very articulately what just a great thing it is. But shifting gears, let's talk about 2023. Let's talk about who the unfortunately the benefactor and the family you've chosen, the individual you've chosen. Tell us a little bit about that, Ray.
Well, I got a call from my buddy Dave Fez Ferry, and it was the day. I think we all listened to the cancer thing that they do on EEI every year, the Jimmy Fund Marathon and stuff. And unfortunately, I listen every year, and I missed it. Yeah. And so he called me and he said, Keefe, I want to make a nomination. I want to nominate Eddie McMahon Jr. I just saw him on. Now, Eddie is a good friends with Dave, but hadn't told him personally. Fez had seen it on the radio or heard it or whatever, a little bit of both. I don't know if it was on TV, but he heard it on the radio, heard Eddie Sr. and Eddie Jr. being interviewed and said, we got to do it for him. And I said, done. Absolutely done. And I think within a day or two, I'm a friend of Eddie McMahon anyways, so he was in my phone, and
everybody's friend.
Well, he is, right. And so I reached out to him, and we just started talking a little bit, and then I went over there and sat down with him, and I remember Eddie. Eddie, there's a million words that come out of Eddie's mouth, right? And a lot of them are very funny, and a lot of them are very interesting. But the one thing I do remember is he said, Ray, I know you're here for a reason, but I wish it wasn't that reason. So in other words, when I rang his doorbell, it wasn't like, hey Eddie, let's sit down and watch the Sox or whatever. It was not for that. It was because we were talking about a polar plunge, and it was about a polar plunge for his family. And as he has said on many times, he's like, I always give. I'm always on the outside looking in, and I always reach out to help people. And now we're on the inside, and I don't like being on the inside of that box, but we're here. And that's the one thing that I can tell you, Frank, is that he and Vicky are so strong and powerful, and obviously they've handed that off to Eddie Jr. because Eddie is as strong as they are. Yeah. And so to sit down with them. Honestly, there was some tears, but it was me. It wasn't them. And, but because they're really powerful and they're so strong throughout this whole thing. And immediately I realized that I wasn't going to have to walk on eggshells and ask, questions that might be uncomfortable. They were ready to take this thing on. Yep. They were telling you what the illness was. They know what the definition of that illness is. And as horrible as the outlook is for this and people that have it, they were ready to take it on. And so immediately we got into some really hard questions, and I think that's one of the reasons why there were some emotions there.
Of course. And there's a really well written article in the Lowell Sun last week by Aaron Curtis. I know he interviewed the McMahon family and did a phenomenal job outlining their struggle and exactly the disease. So I'm sure that was an emotional just to do that. And then it's admirable that they're able to talk about it and discuss it. And it's more admirable that young Eddie can take it on so headstrong. Mm-hmm. It's what a brave kid. I have children of that age group, and I just can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing when you're sick. It's another thing when a child's sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I call him a child. He's a man, but still,
mm-hmm.
must wake up scared every day. So how can people get involved? How can people donate? I did put some of that stuff down there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can do it. Ray and his team have made it very
Right. So
easy to do.
We've been getting donations since shortly after we made the decision, which was at the end of August. So starting in September, the checks, the Venmos, the PayPals, all sorts of things have been coming in. And I would like to just tip my cap to Mike Kunzler and Billy Finn and Chris Finnerl and all those people that kind of came right out of the gate swinging and have already made a huge donation. And it was from all sorts of people, but they are very aggressive salesmen, I might add. Billy Finn is one of the toughest, and so is Mike Cousin. But they always, their intention is great. And
They always ring the bell.
They ring the bell, and they don't ask you for a donation. They tell you.
They tell you.
And
Here's what you're going to write your check.
but you know what? It's a tremendous thing, and I'm glad that Billy Finn is also on our team. And so I want to just tip my cap to those guys, because they have already given a big check to that family and to Eddie Jr. for a wonderful thing. So going forward, and we still have about 4 weeks left. So what you can do is you can Venmo. You can Venmo me. It's at Ray, capital R-A-Y hyphen capital K-E-E-F-E, and just make a note, Eddie McMahon Jr. You can PayPal to info at P-R-E, press, P-R-E-S-S, plus, P-O-U-S.com, and also make a note to Eddie McMahon Jr. You can make a check payable to Edward McMahon or Eddie McMahon Jr., and you can mail it to me at my house, Ray Keefe, 63 Nevins, Nevins Road in Hollis, Hollis, New Hampshire, 03049. And if you would like to write a big check, and you would like that tax deductible or tax deduction, you can make the check out to the Church of the Good Shepherd. And God love this church, because for years they've been accepting checks for us so that people can have that 501c3 deduction,
right.
And then they forward it at the end. And also send that to me, Ray Keefe, 63 Nevins Road, Hollis, New Hampshire. And there are many, many people that have taken advantage of that. And why wouldn't you? So, so those are the ways that you can donate.
And we will, Inside Lowell, as well as I'm sure all of us personally, will make all this information public. I know you posted it before on Facebook, other social media. So whatever you didn't pick up listening to Ray, you'll be able to. We'll get it online. Like I said, we're recording this show. It's a Monday evening. It's January 16th, I believe. Yep. I would anticipate Teddy and the folks at Inside Lowell will have this program live for everyone to listen to and get a better sense of the Folder Plunge in this year later this week. And like I said, we'll have all those details. So it's
Frank, if I could say one more thing too, what works out well too is the day of the plunge. It's a last minute thing. People could welcome to come up with cash. Mm-hmm. We have a hat. Pass around a hat. Pat and Meg Coughlin have opened their house and their doors at the top of Hooksett Street. I don't know the actual address. It's right on the corner of Hooksett and Atlantic. Ocean Drive. So you can come up and buy a T-shirt. You can come up, make a donation. You can write a check. You can drop off cash. It's the day of the plunge is very informal. We'll take anything. You want to bring a bag of coins or, whatever.
But we do have a good group right in Meg and Pat's garage.
Yeah, they opened it
They've
up.
just been, but by the way, thank you, Shaun, because Meg and Pat have been awesome these last several years. Just been awesome. And
McCabe's are great people.
They are great.
Them.
You know them?
I heard about them.
Okay, but they're great, and so you can go in there and the girls, Sandy Dubuque, Grimes, and Cookie Finn. Yeah. There'll be probably Sandy's daughters will be there. They really organized, and so it's well set up to grab your shirt, hand over a check, cash, whatever it is. But there's places to do it, and people looking to collect your money if you'd like to make a donation the day of. So.
Absolutely.
The other thing, Frank, I just want to touch on was obviously with the McMahon family and the Plunge gaining more and more popularity and success, but the McMahon family, this year is going to be, I think, the biggest. So we do have a few little logistic things we'd probably like to share. We reached out to the church, St. Elizabeth's in Seabrook. They've allowed us parking. So we're really trying to, you can see it on Facebook. We're really trying to encourage people to park there. We did reach out to the Seabrook Police Department. We got a permit from the city, the town. Really make it official in drawing the Seabrook community and the people that live up there year round to include them so that they don't just see this overwhelming crowd and wonder what the hell's going on. There was a lot of them that did take part in it last year. We're like, well, this is great, So there's been on some online news and some neighborhood letters. My girlfriend Diane's been involved with to try to get the neighborhood aware of what's coming up and not to panic when you see all these crazy people running around. And running around on the beach. So, but the parking is key. We've reached out to the Lowell High ROTC program, and they look like they're going to send up some volunteers.
Excellent.
So if anybody does see this show and doesn't want to plunge, maybe doesn't really want to go on the beach, we're looking for some help with some parking. Little adult supervision for some of the younger kids and just kind of helping with the traffic overflow and the parking, because we're just trying to take some pressure off of that corner of the Coughlin's house, that corner of the street. The police will be working that out, but we thought if we could have a couple of adults and anybody that wants to volunteer, sometimes
Excellent.
that's more
And you can
important.
reach out,
Even writing a
Ray,
check,
they
it's
wanna help
better
you,
than
right?
if we
Okay.
could have a volunteer or two. So
and like I said, I know there's always hundreds of people there, and I'm guessing you may break a record this year. Not that it's a popularity contest; it's certainly not. But at the same time, this is a very beloved Lowell family, and this is an awful thing that's happening. And like I put something up today just to say it's. I guess that the nugget you take away from this is you see people rally around each other, because it's just no one wants to go through what Eddie and Vicky and Eddie and Colby are living through, right? It's not fair, but you do what we can. We all try to take a little piece and do our best. So like I said, folks, this will be posted live. Not live. This will be posted on our Inside Lowell Facebook page. It'll be on the website. I'll be certainly be posting it on my own feed, as will Ray, as will Shaun and their team and the Finns. All these good people. I know my friend David Daly's been helpful.
Yeah, Dave's been great.
A dear friend of mine doing his best with his, the ambulance company, the EMTs, and you guys have lifeguards.
Actually,
you have folks.
Yeah, that's one more thing, Frank. So people that are concerned, we do have lifeguards. We will have EMTs. We'll have surfers there on surfboards. We've really kind of made some great points to try to make it a little safer event than a bunch of guys jumping in and trying to get out. We're checking the tides. We'll see. We're hoping for low tide, but we'll
There's a tide schedule, Shaun. You can look ahead. I don't know if you know about
we're waiting
that.
for a couple more days, I think, and then we'll see a month out. But there will be EMTs and
Just
certified
precautions.
lifeguards.
Yeah.
See, if anyone that
And
gets a little
it's
cold.
safe. It's very safe. It's
Yeah.
you can go in, you go in. You can't, you can't. That's fine. But
Right.
you'll have a few laughs and
Yeah.
it's
No,
a great
it's you know what I mean. As much as it's about families and the cause, and usually not very pleasant things people want to address or think about, it still is a very positive day.
Sure.
It's for lack of a better word, it's kind of a fun day.
Yeah, I've started to call it Mardi Gras on the beach in February in Seabrook, and it's kind of a combination of you bring in some heartbreak, but you're also bringing together for years I've said the financial support. One of the first things I said to Eddie and Vicky is that the financial support is so important because the healthcare is so astronomical and what he's going through, etc. So the financial part of it is huge. Yeah. But really, I've always thought, from my standpoint, the emotional, uplifting support that you get from the notes, the letters, all the support they've gotten up to this point with help with meals and people that have all their friends that have been chipping in, and then when you see the support on the beach, it's the emotional thing, and they've already spoken about it. They're just overwhelmed with the love and support, the calls, everything that they've gotten, the fact that we've done this, and Mike Kunstler, Chris Finneral, Billy Finn did the other thing, and and I'm sure that I know that there was
there's a lot of people in the dark that will never raise their hand. And generously donated.
Exactly, and there are other groups. I think the police, there was a police group that donated $5,000. They should be mentioned. Everybody has come out of the woodwork, and that's what happens. And I know it happens everywhere, but I kind of pretend like it only happens in Lowell because I grew up there like you guys, and I love this city, and that's why it's amazing to me the support that you get from people in this town and the Merrimack Valley, and of course I live up in southern New Hampshire now, and we get a lot of support from there too. I hate to leave them out because I have friends up there that support whatever cause it is that we do it, but they know that I grew up here, and I love this city, and I would fight for this. I love it here, and I just, every year that this happens, it just blows me away, the support. And a lot of times it does depend on the family. They're very popular, but sometimes there are families that aren't as popular. People still come out to help. When someone has been dealt a tragic or unfortunate hand of cards, people are there to help, and that's what this is about. It's making a difference in someone's life, even if it just is for one day. Like that day, that's Eddie McMahon Jr.'s day at Seabrook. There's going to be hundreds of people there. We're all going to have fun, but it's his day, and we're gonna make sure he knows that, right, Shaun?
Yeah, good point.
Well said, and good closing. Thanks, Ray. So again, folks, we will have all of this information posted on Inside Lowell. You will have access to it, how to donate, how to be a part of it, where to park, where to do anything. If you want to volunteer, if you want to do anything, Ray's contact information, Shaun. These people are all very accessible, so it shouldn't be hard finding them. February 11th, Seabrook Beach, 12 p.m. If you're brave, put on that bathing suit, get out there.
Get there a little early.
You can get in and out as fast as you want. I did it once. I didn't like it, but I did it. And it's like I said, it's a bittersweet day in many ways, but it's still a good day. And great work, Ray. Great work, Shaun.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank Teddy, and again, this is my first show, and thank you to Teddy. And I'll be back. And I also promise most weeks you probably won't get kind of truly important things, but at the same time, I'm excited to be part of this venture. It's going to be fun. I'll have these two crazy guys back on sometime soon. So thank you all for watching and listening, and stay tuned. Polar Plunge, February 11th, 2023. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Good job, Frank. That was awesome.